Welcome back to Doing Bar Things. And in this episode, we're going to go and look at Nvidia. So, I think the last episode I was pretty heavy duty into AMD, and I talked about the 9070 and just some speculation and stuff. They had a really poor CES for their video card. I think the other stuff was fine, like their processors and all that. But the 9070 XT was just basically almost not mentioned in their actual slides and things when they went up there on stage, which is silly. Nvidia, on the other hand, they released everything and we have all the facts. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not happy about their marketing. I'm really in disagreement with their marketing and how they're portraying these cards to be. These cards 100% are not a revolution, they're an evolution. They're just another card that's been brought out. They're going to increase actual performance in that 20 to 30% range, is my guess, across the board. So like a 5070 is basically a 4070 Ti, so on and so forth, right? A 5090, of course, is on its own because it's at 20 or 30% over a 4090, which is already kind of out in front. But a 5080 is basically going to be right around a 4090, give or take. And I think that's actually how this is going to play out. So I think the marketing is wrong. I disagree with it. Having said that, if you got $1,000 you're going to spend on a video card, there's no other option. These are going to be good cards, right? They're going to be used. We're going to find out like, oh yeah, they do the job that they are slated to do. It's not, I am going to bag on them for price, and I'm going to bag on them for the marketing, right? I'm not going to bag on them because the performance is not some sort of improvement. It is, I think, but it's not what they're claiming, which is why I've got the problem with the marketing about the prices, $550 on up to $2,000. I think the 5090. So for me, it's all too expensive. All right, let me just get that out of the way. I'm an old man. Look at all the gray hair. Like, it's all too expensive. But just speaking relative to the competition, everything is appropriately priced. The 5080 for $1,000 was a little bit of a surprise to me. I figured they would go harder and make it $1,200 again. Maybe they've learned something. Gosh, I hope so. That putting an 80 series card, with that relative level of performance in their lineup at $1,200 or higher it's just not, not good. The 749 5070 Ti is probably where I think a lot of people will fall with their budgets. And the 5070 is kind of like that solid mid-range card, right? So it's not a horrible lineup. I would say, again, we have to see what the 9070 XT does, but it might even be these top three cards. There's nothing out there that really fully matches them. For sure, $1,000 up, Nvidia owns the market. They're just in this crazy dominant position. They have a lot of brand loyalty. I wish they wouldn't test that brand loyalty too hard like they do, but they seem to be, okay with doing that. What are some significant standout things in my mind is take the 5090, okay? It's a legit, the Founders Edition. I want to point that out, the Founders Edition. I'm going to show you a non-Founders Edition here in a minute. But the Founders Edition is a legit 2-slot card. That is impressive. I don't know if it's going to be that great. Like, I'm wondering how loud it's going to be, honestly. But that's pretty good. That's pretty good that it's a 2-slot card. You small form factor guys out there that want like the max GPU you can get your hands on, I think this card is maybe for you. You're going to need to figure out the best case situation for it, though. The really cool sandwich cases, I don't think are going to be good for this. And the reason is 2 fans blowing completely through the card. If you have a case that's a sandwich configuration and the CPU's on one, motherboard's on one side and the GPU's on the other side blowing into the case, it's just going to blow into the motherboard tray, and I don't think that's the best way to do this. There's a fractal design case that's an example of something that might be really actually good for this GPU. Is it called the Edge? Fractal Design Edge. I can't remember. It's a mini ITX case. It's an upright case, so you put it on a stand. It's kind of like a console. The GPU is in its own compartment, and there's vents on the front and vents on the back. And the GPU, like in this case, would blow air all the way from, outside the case, in the case, and then out the case again. I think that with some fans, because that case is also designed to hold a bigger video card, but it's not very big. That design case, I think, would do really, really well with this video card, I suspect. I suspect your temps for the video card would be pretty good. So I think it does have some small case implications. If you're still running one of those, again, fractal design, because it's kind of, fractal design's got like a little soft spot in my heart. If you're rocking one of those, let me think, what were they? Fractal design define compacts. This could also be an option for you, because I don't think it's going to be that long, and so you can weasel it in there, right? I actually have a Fractal Design Define 7 compact white case, I think, out in the shed. Anyway, so the cases are not quite as deep. This could be an option for you. The downside is we don't know how loud this thing is, how fast the fans have to spin in order to cool it down when it's at full tilt, because it's supposed to pull 575 watts. That's a lot. That's 125 watts more than the 4090 was really originally kind of spec'd out for. That's a lot of power. That's going to generate some heat, and it's kind of we'll see what that's like. It's going to get reviewed. So I'll be interested to see what that's like. But keep an eye on this. This could be, for you small form factor guys, something to look out for, and you could build a system around it with proper cooling, something like that fractal design case that's on its side, but it compartmentalizes the GPU, and I can't remember the name of it, but I think something like that would be great for this. I think it'd work out really well. They go into the different models, and then here's your breakout of specs. So I guess for this, honestly, performance, like I said, I'm thinking, 20 to 30% uplift, model over model. So the 4070 to the 5070 is about that much, etc., etc. We'll have to really wait for benchmarks to see exact numbers. For this, I think I want to just concentrate on what would you look at as far as maybe power supply, kind of case system, that kind of thing, in order to facilitate building a system around one of these. For your 5070 and 5070 Ti, nothing too crazy. 250 watts isn't that big of a problem. 300 watts is more, but it's not that big of a deal. I would say 600 watt power supply for the 5070, no problem. 750 watts probably for the 5070 Ti, no problems. Maybe 600 watts as well, 650 watts. Depends on the CPU. AMD CPU, with one of the latest kind of setups, you're probably good with a 600 watt power supply on this. If you're running a like 14900K or a 13900K, be careful. Maybe go that bigger power supply. 360 watts. Now we're probably talking 750, 850 watt power supply would be optimal. For the 5090, just get a 1000 watt power supply. Okay. My philosophy on power supplies is simply this. I hear you and I understand people going, well, I can run it off of this many watts. That's awesome. But we're starting to now talk about paying $1,000 or $2,000 for a video card. Okay? These video cards draw power. They're not shy about it. 360 watts is not like the lowest amount you've ever seen. 575 watts is way up there. Get a power supply that is comfortably going to supply your entire system with enough power, including this video card. We're talking a difference of $30, $40 into a power supply that has a little bit more wattage that makes this a comfortable deal, just do it. Just do it. Power supply is not the place to go, but I can get by with this. You know, like you're going to run into some kind of problem. And the power supply is the only piece of well, it's not the only thing. I guess motherboard plugs into everything too, but it literally attaches to everything and is supplying power to everything in your system. Just hear me out. You know, don't shy away from buying a 1,000-watt power supply to power this. Okay, 1,000 watts minimum. You're good. Everything else in your system gets plenty of power, and you're not worried about it, right? And that's kind of how I break down as far as the power goes. The performance, like I'm a little bit disappointed that we're getting $1,000 GPUs with 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Is sort of disappointing to me. 12 gigs at $550 is a little bit disappointing to me. Nvidia is being horribly stingy with the VRAM. I don't know if that's by design because they're sort of thinking designed obsolescence a little bit, you know, in the future. No idea. These have GDDR7, so the RAM itself is a little faster, and maybe that helps in high-res situations a little bit, but the capacity is still kind of under-capacitated, I would say, for RAM, which kind of sucks. Obviously, 32 gigs of RAM, you're paying $2,000, you better get 32 gigs of VRAM. I think, again, these cards will be just fine for what they are. I don't think it's super interesting talking about them simply because they're the de facto standard, right? Like, if you want the highest of the high-end card, you're going to go get a 5090. If you want something just a little bit under that, you're going to go get a 5080. The 9070 XT is not going to challenge a 5080, okay? There may be some weird like scenario where this one certain video game super favors a 9070 XT and it gets close, okay? But that's it. Like, that's all that's going to happen. When you look at the whole averages of everything, and when these cards get tested, your 9070 XT is not going to come close. We're looking at more 5070 Ti range or even 5070 range with the 9070 XT. But it could be cheaper and it could provide a value, which would be great. But we're not looking at something that is going to get into that higher end, right? So let's get that out of our heads. Okay, it's kind of a brief overview of what I think. Let's go look at the actual cards because the Asus Astral is crazy, and all these cards I'm seeing are going to be nuts. The fact that it's got a fan on the back is crazy. It's a push-pull GPU cooler. This thing is massive. So if anybody thought that the partner cards are going to get smaller, no. Check that out. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, I got like an itchy throat. Look at the size of this thing. That is impressive. Look at the bracket on the back. Like, this is a 4-slot card. It's just nuts how big the partner cards are, especially when you compare it to the 2-slot design of the 4090. That's the Founders Edition. Look at this thing. Bah! Is that not crazy? That's pretty crazy. So anyway, yeah. So 4090. If you want a partner card, get a bigger case. If you're looking to do a mini ITX max out build, try to get your hands on a Founders Edition 5090, and that should be better. But also look, you're probably going to have to get away from the sandwich cases in order to do that, which I know is kind of hard because those are great with size. There is one case I thought about from Jonesboro. I wonder how long that card is. We need to find out how long this card is. It doesn't look very long. It looks relatively short. But there's some cases out there that would be, man, yeah, there's a case out there that would be slick in. That really would. So, so just keep in mind, you need a way to get air to flow all the way through that card in order to get its benefit. But the partner cards, get ready for chonk. This is probably a 340 millimeter card, and it is a chonk boy. It is like, I mean, that's a card. And a lot of them are like that. So just be aware. The 5080 will be a little smaller. I think it and the 5070 Ti will kind of match sizes, but not much. It won't be much smaller. I'll say that. 360 watts, 300 watts is not like small. I mean, okay, when you're pushing that much power, I'm saying the cooler is going to be big, right? Like that's not going to be. Think about the coolers on CPUs for that same kind of wattage. They're large, right? So you're going to get large coolers still. It's going to make the cards pretty big, even still. Maybe not, maybe a little bit smaller than this. But the other thing to consider is maybe not, because one way manufacturers save money is they just replicate the coolers. They just use the same cooler, so they can order the same cooler parts, and they'll do it right down the line until they get to like the 5070. This card is going to be considerably smaller. So if you're okay with 5070 performance, it'll still be a bit of a chunky card, but I'm guessing that a lot of these will fit into your normal enclosures. Mini ITX or micro ATX enclosures probably okay. These three probably won't. You can look for Founders Editions. Again, I'm really pretty interested in what this is like. I really am. I want to know what its acoustics are like, how well it cools. Do you get to play with the voltages or clocks? Like do you get to jack with it? Basically, is what I want to know. And can the cooler actually keep up with all that? If this thing can cool 575 watts and not be a buzzsaw in your case, I'll be impressed. That'll be pretty awesome. So, if you have if you're upgrading, if it's been a while and you're upgrading and you have like a fractal design, for example, Define 7 compact, you have any of the compact kind of cases out there, Lian Li Lane Cool 205 kind of comes to mind. That's somebody, a friend of mine has one of those with a 3080 Ti in it, I think, which is a pretty decent sized card. But it's too small for one of these partner cards based off of 5090, right? Or probably even a 5080, the 5070 Ti. They're just, this 340, 50 millimeter behemoth is just not going to go in there, right? The other deal is there's also not enough room in that kind of case for like a 360 mil rad, so you can't really do the water-cooled variant either. So, make sure you're taking that in consideration when you're buying cases. Even if you're buying somewhere locally, usually you can find the case on like Newegg, look up the dimensions, and look at the how much room it allows for the case. People watching my videos, probably a lot of you know this. I kind of think this has an interesting, compatibility potential inside of a Fractal Design North, that kind of thing. But they are going to be large. They're going to take all the juice. It'll be exciting. It'll be exciting to see the reviews on these. Again, Nvidia, you're going to take a bath on the marketing. Get ready for that. I'm sure you don't care. You're going to laugh with all your money to the bank anyway. What else can I say that might help people out? Beware of scalping on these. Don't let the scalpers get you. Be patient when they release this stuff, because that will probably happen. I hope that the supply is equal to the demand, so that way that doesn't happen. But I really believe there's kind of a pent-up demand for video cards, because there are a lot of people that are kind of disappointed in the 4000 series. And I think these cards, overall, the price is more reasonable-ish. And I think people are going to go, well, okay, this is the deal, and they're going to buy. So I think especially your 80s class card, that $1,000 range, could sell decently. The 5070 Ti could sell decently. Some of it's going to be pending, reviews, right? But that's kind of what I feel like, is that there's some demand out there that's not been met. People are kind of sitting on their hands. Um, they have been just trying to buy food and pay their bills, and so now they're looking around. I think it's probably going to be an interesting few months of getting your hands on these cards, and then I think supply will catch up demand, and I think it'll be okay. But that's kind of what I think is going to happen. I'm not sure on that. That's complete speculation. Okay, guys, I hope this video was informative. The cards are going to be available starting on January 30th. You'll get the 5080 and the 5090 will launch, and then the 5070 will launch in February. So you got about a month to wait, and those will be out there. Pretty standard fare. You'll get the high end stuff first because you got to buy the high end stuff, and then that's kind of the deal. And there's not really, again, much to talk about as far as whether you should buy it or not. Again, if you're looking for $1,000 plus card, here you go. This is where you're at. I don't think it's not going to perform. I just think, don't expect to get your 5080 and double the performance of a 4080 in non-DLSS fancy frames, fake frames, whatever stuff turn on situation. Like, it's not going to do that. But it's probably going to be one hell of an upgrade if you're still running a 3080 or a 3090. So there you are. All right, guys. Have a great day. Have a nice weekend. Hopefully I will see you in the next video, and leave a like and subscribe if you would. Maybe even comment. Tell me how much I suck or don't suck. Thank you, guys.